Live, so we're live. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Maria with Race to Zero Waste, and welcome to our action hour. And tonight we are with Plastic Free Pacifica. I have a really nice demo with stitching for you tonight, and also meditation and yoga. But before we begin, we I think before going on the air, we were talking about the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't know if you all have heard this news. So we're taking deep breaths together and knowing that this is a space where many of us really put our hearts into for Ruth Bader Ginsburg to, be a source of stability and pride in our government over these past few years, and to see her passing and that strength and that light be gone, it's tough. But we are a community. I think that's something that we can take solace in. That our mission goes on. Dylan Thomas poem, "Lovers be lost, but love shall not." That's our fight goes on. Her spirit goes on. Dedication goes on. So with that, we're gonna send love and light to her families, colleagues, to everyone all over the country, all over the world, who is feeling that way. So if you wouldn't mind, just a few moments of silence. Thank you. I'm going to turn it now over to Alejandra Warren. She's with Race to Zero Waste, and also with Plastic Free Pacifica, and she's going to be introducing our demo for tonight. Thanks, Alejandra.
Thank you, Mario, for that little bit of space. We definitely need it tonight. I want to invite everyone first to introduce yourselves. If you can write your name and where you're joining us from, we would love to hear from you. I know we have some friends joining us from Latin America, so bienvenidos. Si alguno tiene preguntas, solamente escríbanlas en el chat y yo puedo responderlas en español. La mayoría del video va a ser en inglés, así que yo puedo ayudarles con la traducción. We're trying to make this event inclusive. We need it more than ever. So thank you for joining us, everybody. And I think this is the perfect time to just meditate a little bit and use this video to exercise a little bit of mindfulness. We all need it right now. So I hope you enjoy it. We're gonna be here for questions after, and take it away, Teresa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to be sharing my screen now.
Teresa, I'm not hearing anything.
Teresa, when you go in, you have to share your audio from your computer when you show the video.
Hi, everyone. We had some technical difficulties. I had to get off and hop back on, but Laura is absolutely right, and we tested this before. So I need to, when I share my screen here. Okay. It should be better now. Let me start.
Delighted to be part of the Zero Waste Action Hour. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you how to mend your clothes using the beautiful Japanese Sashiko repair. This is a wonderful way to repair your jeans, save some money, and save the environment. Let's switch angles and I can give you some close-ups on how to begin. So here we are at our workspace, and I have a pair of jeans with me here that we're going to mend the crotch. You can see that I've already mended one side and a hole is starting to appear on the other side. So that's where we're going to focus our attention today. To talk through some of the materials that we'll need a needle. Now I'm working with a Sashiko needle, and these are specifically designed for mending. They have a sharper point. Let me put a bit of contrast behind so you can see. They have a sharp point which is designed to go through a couple of layers of material and a large-ish eye, which means that you can put a thicker thread through the eye of the needle. Now, for some of you, you might not have these at home or be able to access the Sashiko needles. So darning needles work just as well, and you can get those from any sewing store. And quite often you can pick them up in like a packet of mixed needles. So that's our needle. Then our thread that we're going to be working with, I will be working with the Sashiko thread, which is specifically designed for mending. So it's not like our embroidery floss where you can unpull it. It's specially twisted, as you can see here, so that it won't come undone, and it's really, really strong. It's really tough. It won't fray. Now, if you don't have some of this at home, that's totally okay. Some people like to work with pearl cotton, which is also used for crochet, and even embroidery thread will work too. But the great thing about the Sashiko thread is it's designed for mending clothes, which means it lasts a long time, and it also softens with age, so it kind of softens into the fabric rather than being harsh and wearing against the fabric. So we've got our needle and thread, and I'll go ahead and just thread this right now. And now I'm fond of the pinch technique, where you close your fingers, line up the eye of the needle with where the thread is, and very carefully open up my fingers. And as they open up, I push the thread through. So it's just like that. And that, I find, is the simplest way to thread a needle. Then just a regular knot at the end, at the very end. So that's our needle and thread. The next thing we need to think about is the patch itself. And so let's look at where this hole is. I'm just making some space. And although the hole, you can see, is not too big, I'm actually going to put a large patch on similar to this size here. So you can see that I initially patched this section here, and then I got a hole here, so I added an extra patch here. So if you think about your jeans or the areas that you're patching, quite often if they're starting to fray in one place, they're going to fray in other places as well. So I can even see that up here it's starting to get quite thin and threadbare. So if you want to save yourself some time in the long run, I would put in a huge patch. This just means that once you get started, it's going to keep you going for quite some time. Smaller patches, so say hypothetically if we mended just this little bit here, means that it's going to start to wear around here. So the larger the patch, the longer it's going to outlast you. So I've got some other denim. It's always good to choose a fabric that's similar to the fabric that you're repairing, get a similar weight, and you can tell that just from rubbing the fabric between your fingers. So I'm going to turn my jeans inside out. And put the patch on the inside. So just to show you the previous patch, this is what it looks like on the inside. I haven't bothered to finish any of these edges. They will only unravel to where the stitching is. So you can see here, the stitching goes here, so that's as far as that's unraveled. And same with this one here. The stitching goes to here, and so it's just unraveled a little bit. So it's not really necessary to seam your patches, unless of course you want to, because I know some people like to work neatly. So you can see we've got our holes here, and I'm trying to spread this out as flat as possible. This just makes working on the jeans so much easier. There we go. Then I'm going to get my patch and line up where I want it to go. So I want it to go all along here. And then the next step is I'm going to use safety pins to hold it in place. Now, the reason why I like safety pins is because I don't have the patience to tack my my patches, and tacking just means you put a running stitch all the way around your patch with just a scrap bit of thread that you take out later, because I like to get started on my projects immediately. And pins I find are no good because they can slip out when you're moving the fabric around, and even worse, you can accidentally stab yourself with a pin, and that's really not fun. So get some safety pins, and they will hold your fabric in place and save you from a sore finger. So make sure that the fabric's all nice and flat. Pin that in place. And then I'm going to turn it out the right way. Make sure I haven't accidentally pinned all layers of fabric together, which I have done. So very carefully I'm going to make sure I just have the layers here pinned that I want. Same with this one. That one's okay. That one's okay. So now that I've got my hand between the two layers, I'm going to put some more pins up the top here. And then we can turn our fabric over. So this is an important part to do. The setup with any project is always the most tedious, but also the most important, because if you make sure that this is all nice and flat, which it is, and we've pinned it in place. I might actually put another one here just to stop it from accidentally folding over whilst I'm doing the stitching. And there we have it. So now we're going to turn it in the other way. So the right side again. And we've got our first step done, which is putting the patch in place. Now you can see here I have accidentally caught the two layers in with the pin, so I'm just going to, by feel, come back in and do this again. Careful not to prick your fingers if you're doing it this way. Okay, so there we go, step one. So now we're up to our sewing of the pants. I like to add one final step to this because I like to do the hitomizashi stitching, which are these stitches here, and they're all based on a grid. So I like to draw up a grid first just to help me make sure I get nice straight stitches. And I'm going to use a quilter's grid, but you can use anything that you have at home. I like to work on the inch, so an inch ruler is a pretty good thing to work with as well. And then finally, the best way to put marks on fabric are these wonderful things called friction pens or heat sensitive pens. And the wonderful thing about these is that they disappear with heat. So if you iron them, the lines disappear. They will reappear if you put them in the cold, but they will wash out. So on a pair of jeans, these are great to work with. The other option too, if you would like to, is you can use the washable school markers as well, or markers for kids. So these are designed to wash out in water as well. And these are a great, cheaper alternative. So I'm going to rule up, working from this seam here, I'm going to measure out 1/2 inch lines. And this is what's going to form the basis of my stitching. You always want to choose a pen that you're actually going to be able to see the lines, and this black one here isn't that clear, so I'm going to work with the red marker as an alternative. And that's a little bit too thick, so we're going to use this red heat sensitive pen. So I like working with the red on denim. It offers a nice contrast. There we go. And we'll do the same back down along here. And draw up our lines. Now, ideally, you would draw your lines to the very ends or edges of your patch. But for the sake of time today, I'm just going to focus on a smaller area. There we go. And then we come back in and we're going to do the same this way as well. So again, measuring out our 1/2 inch grid. And then coming back in this way and ruling our lines. So you have all this set up to do when you really just want to get stitching. And if you want, you can totally bypass this step. That's totally fine. And you just kind of go with the flow. Because I have a particular style on my pants, I'm going with that particular style. So we've got our needle and thread, and with our knot in one end, this is where the fun begins. I'm going to do a very basic stitch pattern. And do an anchor stitch first. This just helps keep the thread nice and secure, because sometimes a knot will pull through your fabric. And then what I'm doing is I'm stitching halfway between each one of my grid lines. So the actual stitch itself works out to be 1/4 of an inch in length. And you can see here that I'm collecting all of my stitches on my needle. And this is the beauty of working with the Sashiko needle. So once I've done the area that I want to do, pull that through. Like so. And then I'm going to come back and do a drop stitch. So now my stitches, in effect, are going to fill in the area, the voids between this first row here. So they're going to be in along here. I'll demonstrate. Working with jeans means you kind of got to learn to work from one side only. It makes it easier because having to move back and forth, pulling your needle up and down with each individual step can be time consuming. So if you can learn to work from the top of the fabric, that's great too. So there we've done that second row. Now you'll also notice that I always finish with my thread on the top, and that's because it's easier to move from one row to the next. I'm just putting my hand up the leg here. So I'm moving from this row, putting the needle in here, and then switching across to a diagonal, on a diagonal to my next row that I'm stitching. And again, because it is just a running stitch, every now and again you want to stop and just flatten it out on the table surface or on your leg so that you're not accidentally pulling your stitches too tight. And you'll notice as you sit, you'll get into a rhythm, and you notice that the stitching process itself is actually quite calming. And it's a pleasure to do. I actually really look forward to these moments where I can just simply sit and stitch. It's such a lovely treat. So let's see now. So now I'm going to come back in here and move across to my next lot of the grid. And I always find it's easier to stitch one way, so I'm always rotating my fabric, excuse me, and we will come back in and keep on doing our stitches. And this is a very basic introduction to learning the sash curl stitch and mending your clothes. Pull that through. Now you might also notice that I have a little bit of leather on my hand, and these are actually a special Sashko thimble, and if you don't have enough grip on your fingers to pull your needle forward, you can use the thimble to push the needle through the fabric. And it's just a great way of saving your finger strength, or if you have arthritis in your fingers, then it just is a little bit nicer on your body. Okay, so we'll do one more row and then I'm going to call it quits for today. That's our 15 minutes. I could quite happily spend the rest of my day working on this. But we must also make some time for questions and answers. There we go. And then as my finish, I'm going to continue doing this for the whole length of my patch, but to show you how I like to finish it off, I'll do that demonstration now too. So we put the needle through and then turn it to the other side. Whoop. Again, make sure it's nice and flat. You don't want the fabric to be gathering. And then what I like to do is, again, do a few very tiny tack stitches. So where you pull it through, I always find doing it 3 times. 3 is the magic number. So you pull it through 3 times. And this just means that it's very unlikely to unravel. Then I even put the needle through this way as well, like so. And that just means I don't really have a bump if I'm going to sit on it, because there's nothing worse than having bumps in your bottom. And it also is just a little bit stronger than a regular knot. So thank you so much for your time today to sit and watch and hopefully participate with this stitching tutorial that I've shared with you. If you'd like some more information, I do have a document that you can download. If you go to zenstitching.ca/zero waste, you'll be able to find all the details there.
Wow, that was amazing. Hey, Kate, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So I'm 39, and I've always said that when I'm 40, I'm going to learn how to sew. I come from a family, many generations of sewers, and one of my ancestral things to get over is the fact that I can't sew. I've never had the patience, but I was like, by 40, I should have the patience to sew. But I thought it was amazing that how accessible the Shashko needle is and that technique is, because I was like, oh, I could do that. So thank you for that. I have lots of things to research and study, and my son has already given me some the sequence that like flips on either side that he wants me to patch over lots of his pants. So I was like, yeah, I got it, and I'm gonna watch this video. I'm gonna learn how to do it, and we're gonna do it together. So thank you for that. And I'll open it up for questions for anyone. Let's see. We have some in the chat from Alejandra. Kate, do you recommend any specific sashiko, and I'm saying this right, sashiko net thread for beginners, or are they all the same? And any information about future workshops? Oh, and Kate, you're muted.
Mute. There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
How's that?
Perfect.
You can hear me. Oh, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It's pretty exciting. And I'm delighted to hear that you're really inspired to do a whole lot of different stitching. And like you say, it is incredibly accessible. It's a running stitch. You can't go wrong. And gosh. Sorry, I've just got watery eyes. We've been driving for the last couple of hours, so we've only just landed in the new spot. But the thread that I like to use is Olympus thread, but that's only because it's a nice thread because sorry, I'm just walking around here. It's a nice thread because it's a good weight, and it's not too thick and it's not too thin. And if you can get the Sashiko thread, then I would recommend that you use it, just because it's specially designed to be used for the mending process. But of course, there's lots of threads that you can use. Some people like to use pearl cotton. Some people, and I even started out just using the this embroidery thread. So you can use anything when you get started. Don't let the specifics stop you. But I did find that when I lashed out and bought the Sashiko needle and the Sashiko thread, it just made a big difference. I'm just going to put you down for one moment so that I can just wipe my face.
Sure. Thanks. And if you don't want to ask your questions to Kate, you can all feel free to type them in the chat and we'll get them to her as well that way.
Thank you. Sorry about that. When my eyes get tired, they get leaky.
We had a leaky eye session before.
So yes, that's what I would suggest using. I have classes that you can do online if there's something that you're interested in looking into further. And if you go to my website, zenstitching.ca, then there's all the information there on there's an introduction to sashiko, there's sashiko for beginners, and then there's also a masterclass that really goes into depth on breaking down each of the more complex patterns that you might see out there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Kate, so much for joining us. I think it's more important than ever that we figure out ways to slow down and get into ourselves. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to just take a minute, right?
Oh, yeah, it really is. Yes. And that's, to me, one of the added benefits of this. So when I first started doing it, it was because I really liked the patterns and I was fascinated by the complexity of them. And yet they're incredibly simple at the same time. They're quite beautifully designed. And I realized that when you get a chance to sit down and do the stitching, then you're so focused and your hands are so busy, your mind gets a chance to relax and the body gets a chance to relax too. So it's wonderful in that sense. And you're also repairing your favorite clothes so you don't have to throw them out, which is just wonderful.
So beautiful, so beautiful. I think it is a different process for you as an artist. I've seen your art, you have amazing art. You are, do you have a favorite media for your art?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I think probably textiles. I do love textiles. Textiles and working with my hands it's kind of like comfort food, I guess you could say. So I grew up with textiles and that's what I really love doing. But I also enjoy doing, I'm working with my partner at the moment to make a video he does the audio and I do the visuals along with it. And so that's really exciting too. So I enjoy working with a whole lot of different things.
That's amazing. Do you notice a difference between other types of art that use your creativity and you're more engaged compared to this one, which is a little bit more repetitive and mindful? Is there a big difference between?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the tactile nature of the stitching and working with your hands, it's definitely, I find personally, much more rewarding than sitting in front of a computer and working with different things. And they've even done studies that have said that if there's something about using the tips of our fingers and it's relaxing, so there's pressure points within our fingers. So it's definitely an art that is quite beneficial for us, also mentally as well. Like it just helps relax and calm us.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a sense that is underrated. And there's a reason why humans have all this skin ready to sense things and we are not using it to our advantage. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to do something that your tutorial was I feel confident that I can do it now thanks to your tutorial, because when I saw it, I was like, no, that's totally out of my league. I can never do anything like that. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Well, I'd love to see some pictures of your stitching when you get a chance. Please send them my way. That'd be exciting.
That's intimidating, but okay, you insist.
No, not at all. Not at all. I really love it. In fact, I get a real kick out of seeing people working with their hands and trying these stitches. It's great. I'm teaching a workshop tomorrow, so I really love seeing it.
Well, thanks, Kate, and hope you get some rest. And
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Maria,
Absolutely.
before we let Kate go, I think there's one more question in the chat, I think.
okay, let's see. Yeah, from Lisa, all the Sashiko stitches based on a running stitch. I've seen other stitch patterns that look quite complicated.
Yeah, so yes, they are. All the Sashiko stitches are just a simple running stitch. There's the variation that I showed you today is all based on a grid, which makes it really easy, and that's why I think it's great to start off with that. And then you can get into more complex patterns which are not on a grid, but they still all use the running thread and the running stitch. So it's quite, what would I say? There's a lot of freedom in doing it. It's quite generous. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is really nice. Whereas some of the more the highly complicated ones, you do have to get a little bit more precise with your stitches. So there's a bit of wabi-sabi that's also embraced within the stitching.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Amy reminded us that by stitching our jeans, we're saving 1,800 gallons of water. So yeah, very, very important to our resources as well. So many benefits.
Yeah.
I realize sitting here, our next session is we're going to do some chair yoga and meditation, but yeah, you're constantly in mudra. You're in calming mudra as you stitch.
Ah,
So,
interesting. That's totally fascinating.
yeah.
About stitching, I think it's time for us to stitch concepts together, mindfulness, repairing, and in the way we want to see our society be in the future. So what do we want to see as a society? If anyone cares about climate change here or the climate crisis, the fashion industry has the responsibility of 10% of carbon emissions. That's a really big amount. So with those little stitches, we can definitely contribute to make this planet a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we have to figure out the ways to stop buying obsessively and consuming mindlessly, just buying things because we feel like we can afford them. I think that's a problem in the first world. Oh, I have $10, so let me see how can I use those $10. But just slowing down and thinking a little bit about it. It's not impossible. I gave up buying new clothes almost 4 years ago, and I'm still alive, so it is possible. And you are giving me another resource to improve my purpose. So thank you. Thank you. And after this, we're gonna have some meditation and yoga with Maria to continue in the mindfulness mood.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, the really nice thing about stitching is because you're sitting down and you're working on these objects, you become more connected with them as well. And so they turn from garments which you might not give too much consideration to quite special objects. You know, they become very precious. The jeans that I've worked on more than 12 or 13 times now, they're like my muck around jeans that I do the gardening and paint the house in. I almost don't want to do that anymore because I don't want to get them dirty. That's how precious they've become. So it totally changes the way we engage with objects around us. So it's quite amazing.
Well, awesome. Again, thank you, Kate, and thanks Alejandra for and Plastic Free Pacifica for bringing this presentation together. It's just what we needed tonight. I think it's absolutely perfect. So thanks again, and feel free to stay on if you want to do learn some chair yoga for when you're stitching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we know you had a long day, so thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank
Good night
you.
to
All right.
And before I disappear, I just wanted to share with you and everyone who's joined in tonight that if you enjoyed what you saw and you'd like to get some more information on it, I've put together a little document that you can download, and it's got all the information and how to do the stitches and everything. So if you go to zenstitching.ca/zero waste, you can find all the information there.
Yeah.
That's my little gift to you.
Yeah.
Amazing, but I also want to encourage people to sign up to your workshops. I was in Instagram today and I saw, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing? I saw some jars with fruit floating. So tell us a little bit about that before we
Yes. Okay, sure, absolutely. I'm doing, and it's you've got just a little bit of time if you want to join in. It's called the Garden Party, and it's a 6-week course on natural dyes. And we're going to look at all different ways that we can dye our fabrics, and then with the intention that we can then come back in and do some slow stitching on top. So the jars that you saw, that's solar dyeing, and working with just things that you can find around the house. So onions, blueberries, black beans, avocados, and they give you the most beautiful colors, and you just have to put them in jars and you put them on the windowsill. And then we're going to be doing eco dyeing, where we wrap things in bundles, ice dyeing where it's frozen, and all kinds of good stuff. And it's wonderful because it's all natural and non-toxic, and it's another way of revamping your wardrobe. So if you have something that's got stains on them or you don't like the color, then you can just dye them or rehash them in a new way. So it's going to be lots of fun. And also putting plant prints on. So if you've got like flowers, we can press flowers into your clothes and leave a mark. It's lots of fun.
Oh my gosh, this has been my Zen activity. I've been drawing over a pair of Toms and calling them atoms, and I would love to not use Sharpies and have to inhale that. So I think I'll be looking at the workshop. Thanks for sharing that. I want to get
You're
the garden
welcome.
party too. Very cool.
I love those shoes. That's awesome.
I feel a slow fashion happy hour happening here. So I'm sure we'll hear from you. That sounds really exciting. That's exactly what we need.
Well, you know what? This is just off the cuff, but if you'd like to at another stage get together and we can do a bit of a stitching party where we sit together and we do some stitching or get inspired, then I'm more than happy. Yep, me too. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to join you.
All righty, rest up. Thanks again.
Thank you. Yes, and enjoy the Zen chair meditation.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, folks. We're gonna do some chair yoga now. So if you're in a chair, we're gonna slide forward so that your sits bones, your butt bones are just on the edge of your seat. Walk to the edge. Don't go over the edge. Feel secure, and also get your feet grounded. So the feet can slide. So your legs are in line with your hips if possible. Your toes forward. Just as if you were standing up. Bring that concentration of bringing your core and having your core hold you like a mountain in your chair. And once you feel that, start to move up your spine into your shoulders. Just roll your shoulders a few times. One way, other way. And swim them. And finally, just falling into a held back. Your heart is open. Lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. Nice light head. Still supported by that core. We find our light head. Everyone disses the airhead, but airheads can see above like a bird. Just find your neck. And kind of find a pattern, a figure eight pattern that helps. You can draw that pattern with your nose, tip of your nose. Then we'll figure eight the other way. All I have to say is 2020, don't you touch Stevie Wonder. This may also call this the Stevie Wonder head roll. Nice. And then the head becomes centered with the core, becomes tall, very top of the head, shining. Nice. Let's bring our arms up. Wherever it's comfortable, if it doesn't feel comfortable over the head, you can stop at shoulder height. Bring the palms together and down. We'll breathe in. Palms come together. And breathe down. One more. Nice, and we'll let our hands float, our fingers float to the heart. Just flutter on your heart. Just breathing, taking a deep breath in. We tap the heart, waking up our hearts. Just feel your hands in your heart space. Feel your fingertips pressing your chest. Feel your whole hand. Feel your breath rising and falling. Just finding this pattern. The simplest one that upholds life. As we find more concentration on that pattern, so we inhale, just give a count to 3 or 4 or 5. Then hold the breath a little and breathe out twice as long. So if you're on a 3 count, it goes to 6, 4 count 8, 5 count goes to 10. Inhaling for that count, holding for a bit, holding that fullness, and then releasing. If you can, double the count. All the air is out. Then maybe holding that emptiness before we begin again. Breathing in, holding, breathing out, and holding. So again, find this pattern. 1 to 2, taking breaks. You're full and empty. And then our next cycle, after we release, to breathe again from holding our emptiness. Just relax the hands if they're still on the heart. Find natural breath. And in the stillness, just offer love and kindness. And that may all beings in all worlds be free of suffering and the root of all suffering. Yum. 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 May the sounds of our hearts, yum, be lifted into all spaces and time. Om. And from the very primary source here on earth, Ma. Yam Oma. We can start to awaken your feet, your arms. Maybe they help you to slide back and comfy into your chairs. Let your spines open. In your chairs. So I'd like to thank all you zero wasters and everyone here sharing this space. Alejandra, thank you. Thank you for your vibrations, your sound, and thank you, Teresa and Kate, and all these lovely faces, and hey, Laura. Holding new. So yeah, thank you again. We'll do it all again next month. And next month we'll be kicking off an action month. So be on the lookout for those dedications and challenges that we're going to give ourselves as we go forward.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks for doing such a good job as always. Lovely. Lovely to see you all.
All right.
Have a good
Bye,
night.
everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye, too.
Bye.